You are listening to the Maple Footy Podcast, the unofficial football podcast of the North. I'm your host, Sam Little. Find me on socials at SamLittle44 and the podcast at Maple Footy Pod. And now there's nothing left to say except for sit back, enjoy, and welcome to the show.
Hello, and welcome back to the Maple Footy Podcast, the unofficial football podcast of the North, as it says in the intro, and as I say right now. As we know, CPL has started, which means we will talk about some CPL action right after we get the Maple start out of the way. So, first of all, Marshall Ruddy, you probably have already seen this news, but if you haven't, this happened I think literally the day that I posted my last podcast. The last Prem recap, and then I forgot to mention it in the Vancouver one that I just did. Still though, Marshall Ruddy has moved from Montreal to Charlotte on loan. So that is, I think, hopefully a good move. He's struggled to find his feet in Montreal, but I don't think that's fully his fault. They have been a very turbulent team the last season and a bit, basically since before he even came in. So hopefully maybe a little bit of stability can do him well. He is still young. I know it's kind of hard to believe. It feels like he's been around forever, but he's still was he only 21, 22? If he's even that old. So I have faith that he can get his feet under him in Charlotte so long as he gets some game time. Another move, Ryan Raposo has gone to LAFC. Of course, he was a Whitecap for many years, but his contract came up. They did not renew. And then he was kind of flirting with some clubs in China, but ended up, I guess, staying in the MLS. And he will be playing for LAFC. I think it's 1 year with an option for another. So congrats to him. He is a Hamilton boy, so shout out that. And yeah, very, very excited to see what he can possibly do. But moving into more MLS news, Bassong of Kansas City scored an absolute banger. Sadly, it doesn't count for nothing apart from that it was a beautiful goal because Kansas City did lose in the MLS on the weekend. And Kamal Miller led out his boys, Portland Timbers. He was the captain, so shout out Kamal. I absolutely love Kamal. Glad to see that he got to wear the captain's armband, and they did win. I believe it was 4-2 for Portland, so maybe make him captain full-time. Some other MLS news. TFC lost, sadly. I've been trying to be optimistic with them recently. They had some obviously not superb results, but results that weren't losses. And of course, their game before the one on the weekend, they had one. So I was hoping maybe they could build a little bit of some momentum maybe. As I kind of mentioned in my Vancouver podcast, I had said how, TFC, we're still not thinking playoff contenders, nothing like that. But, just a couple wins under your belt, maybe get a little bit of run of form under you. But it looks like that run of form got kneecapped at the first hurdle as they lost right after a win. So we'll see kind of what they can do, what corner they can turn. Montreal drew in their game as well. And Ali Ahmed picked up an assist against Minnesota. They won 3-1. So that's good. Tani Oluwaseyi, he grabbed the assist for Minnesota. So very good week for Vancouver, and they will be playing Inter Miami, I believe Wednesday of this week, where they have a 2-goal lead over them, but we will see kind of what happens there. I would love to see Vancouver into the CONCACAF Champions Cup final. Where are we at in my notes? I'm sorry. Europe. Not a whole ton in Europe. The biggest and really, I think, only story I have for Europe was Alistair Johnston grabbed his 11th assist for Celtic in a 5-0 win. So he also kept a clean sheet over Dundee as they clinched the title. Congratulations to Alistair Johnston and Celtic. Alistair Johnston has been one of the best, if not the best, right back in the world now for quite some time. and he's winning major titles. His trophy cabinet is getting rather full. His assist locker is getting rather full. So shout out to Alistair Johnston. I absolutely love him. And I think so does the whole of Canada and the whole of the Celtic supporters. So he's just an easy character to love, I think. And I'm interested to see if this may be the summer where he decides to make the leap from Celtic to another team, or if he decides to stick it out with Celtic. We'll see. I know he just signed a new deal relatively recently with Celtic, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly. I may just be making that up, but I could have sworn within the last little bit that he had signed a new deal. Another European story that really doesn't pertain to Canadian players, but I guess kind of does, because Liam Miller plays for Hull City, and at the moment it looks like Hull City could be getting relegated. Of course, Liam Miller has not played since October due to his ACL injury, and I'm concerned for Hull and for Liam Miller, because we obviously know the player that Liam Miller is and what he's capable of doing, and I think it would be a shame that he gets a good move to Hull City and then it kind of just falls apart after he gets injured. And once, not saying he was the star player and then their season fell apart without him, but after he kind of went out, their form kind of did dip, and now they are looking like they will be relegated because they had a game against Derby County, who are also trying to fight for survival in the championship, and Derby County won, and there's only one game left, so Hull needs to win their remaining game and hope that Luton loses theirs for Hull to stay up. So still possible, but yeah, I just worry for Liam Miller, because now next season he'll be coming back from an ACL injury, maybe in the third tier of England, and obviously we know that he is very crucial for us at Canada. Will a guy coming back from an ACL injury in the third tier get a sniff at the national team? I really hope so, if of course he warrants it. And I know that probably should be the last thing on our minds at the moment, but just these are just the things that I think of when it revolves around a player that I like. Of course, still nothing but the best for Liam Miller, and I do hope that Hull can kind of pull off the escape, because just last season they were so close to promotion. It's kind of a shame to see them having fallen a lot off this season. And I know that they lost their manager, so that doesn't help. He was a very good manager. I believe he went to Ligue 1, somewhere in Ligue 1, is doing quite well. So, yeah, that's kind of the Maple start. We'll kind of move into the NSL results now. And I will give a little heads up, I wasn't able to keep as close of an eye on NSL and CPL as I would have liked. I was literally like working at the times that all these games were getting played. So kind of a shame, because I do really like watching them and wanting to support. But, you know, that's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes, right? So NSL, Calgary beat Halifax 4-1 in Halifax's home opener. Ottawa beat AFC Toronto 2-1, and the special thing about Ottawa is Desiree Scott scored her first professional goal, which is kind of surprising. I mean, I guess it kind of makes sense given the position that she does play. She's not really a goal scorer. I just had figured, I just never really checked, I guess, that she had never scored a professional goal. I just kind of always just was on the assumption that she probably had. So to see that that was her first professional goal, very happy for her. She's done a lot for the Canadian program, and, you know, definitely didn't have to be playing in the NSL. I believe she was kind of leaning towards retirement, and then NSL kind of came a calling, and she was like, yeah, why not? And for that, I will always respect her. Vancouver, in the other final game, Vancouver lost to Montreal 3-1. So yeah, I'm very apologetic that that wasn't super in depth. But yeah, like I said, that's just kind of the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. In the CPL, baby, Halifax continued a pretty strong start to the season. They went to Valor, and they won. Halifax remain undefeated, drew in their first game of the season, and have won their previous 3. So that's absolutely massive. Halifax are having a very good start to the season. They scored late. Diaz scored in the 90th minute, and that's sometimes what you have to do, right? It's a cagey game, and sometimes you need someone to pull up a moment of magic, and that is exactly what happened. In the Saturday games, Cavalry continued a lackluster start to their title defense as they lost 3-1 to Ottawa. I know Ottawa kind of always seems to go to Cavalry and usually seems to win, or at least give Cavalry a run for their money. And that's what happened here. Ottawa ends up winning 3-1, and it really wasn't close from what I saw, at least. And Ottawa, kind of another team, kind of like Halifax, started this season well. Ottawa, of course, sitting literally top of the table. And that's absolutely massive for Ottawa and both Halifax as well. So Cavalry, on the other hand, I'm not really sure what's not working at the moment. You can see that the team is still there, but I think Tobias Warshevsky needs to get a little bit more involved. They need to figure out a way to get the best out of him again, as when he is at his best, I think the team is at their best. Moving into the Vancouver FC and Pacific game, both of these teams having rather slow-ish starts to the season, but of course, it ends 1-1. Vancouver is still a team that I am saying to keep an eye on. I think people count them out a little bit too early. I do. Of course, Tyrion Campbell picks up another assist on the season, so that's 3 goal contributions for him for Vancouver, 2 assists, 1 goal. And then Pacific pulled one back in the 70th minute. So, yeah, both of these teams not enjoying the most, consistent starts, either one of them. But both of them have shown, I think, a little bit in the first little bit of this season to show that they can be capable of doing something in this season. And the final game of the weekend was York and Forge. Forge, this is probably the worst that they've been this season. All love to my Forge boys. But yeah, they just didn't look on it on the day. And I think with a team like York, they are going to capitalize, and that's what happened. York goes up 2-1 at a point in the game after going down 1-0. So, and then, of course, concede a penalty. Brian Wright scores his second for Forge now against his former club. Fun fact. And, yeah, I mean, if York kind of, I think, buried their chances, I think it's a very different game. But, of course, they don't. And that's, I think, been a problem of York's season so far in these first 4 games that they have played. They've looked good, they've looked sharp, but they haven't looked sharp enough in that final third, and they haven't been able to close out games either. And I think that those are kind of things that will end up biting you. And, of course, in a game where they probably should have won, they end up drawing. So, I mean, it is better than a loss, right? But, yeah, that's kind of how I'm feeling about York right now this season. And for Forge, I think it's just a matter of kind of getting that oomph back in them. Their first 2 games, I thought they were very good. Against Valor, kind of a cagey game. And then against York, once again, kind of not their best. So I think they got to get back up for it. The Canadian Championship is right around the corner. They're going to be facing Halifax 2 games in a row. 1 in the CPL in Halifax, and then 1 in Hamilton in the Canadian Championship. So I would like to and hope to see Forge have a run in the Canadian Championship, he says biasedly. And yeah, I think Halifax are right now in very good form and looking very good, so I don't think either one of those games is an easy game. And I think that they're going to have to get back to what they were looking like in those first 2 games of the season as opposed to these last 2 games. But yeah, we'll kind of move away from all the Canadian talk, and move into Premier League chat. So if you come for this stuff, you came to the right place. You came to the right time of the podcast, because we will be talking about the Prem. And if you do not know the order in which that we do this, we start with match of the weekend, biggest winners of the weekend, biggest underperformers, best performance, moment of the weekend, relegation zone, European places, title race. And now, since the CPL season has started, we will also do CPL predictions at the end of this. So stick around for those if you would like to hear my predictions on that. But yeah, let's start with match of the weekend. And guys, I'm going to be honest, full transparency, this is probably going to be a pretty Liverpool heavy one, because, it's not like they won the league or anything. In brackets, they did. But we'll kind of save a little bit of Liverpool talk for the time being, because they did have a very good game. But the match for me of the weekend, I would say, was probably Brighton-West Ham. Not a whole ton on the line in this one, but just 2 teams going out there and just putting on a show. very good game. It starts off with Brighton scoring an absolute banger in the 13th. Then Kuda scores right after halftime for West Ham. Then Souček scores in the 83rd minute, and you're thinking, okay, West Ham probably going to win this then. Matoma scores then for Brighton in the 89th. And then Balba scores in the 92nd for Brighton with one of the goals of this season. It was both of two of the three goals Brighton scored, the first and the last. Very, very good goals. But yeah, just one of those back and forth games that as a neutral, you kind of want to watch and you love to watch because it is so unpredictable. And yeah, it was just a very good game. So very, very much, I don't want to say nothing game, but very much not really a ton of the line in that one. But yeah, just a good old game, that one. And then, of course, kicking off our Liverpool chat, their game against Tottenham 5-1. I mean, atmosphere looked incredible, both inside and outside of Anfield. And then the fact that it was also 5-1. Liverpool just needed a point to win the league. They decided, no, we want 5 goals, 3 points, and we want there to be absolutely no debate of if we should win the title today or not, because we're winning this title today. So yeah, I mean, it was just a celebration. It felt after Solanke had scored. Like, once the first Liverpool goal went in, you kind of felt, okay, they're probably going to bare minimum get a tie in this one. And then once the goals kind of kept on flowing, you kind of were like, okay, so they wanted to leave a mark on this one, and that they did. It was a very entertaining game, and credit to Liverpool. They do deserve this league title. I think they have been the best team in the league. I know I have been a little bit probably harsh on them this season, but I will say to my credit, I have always given them credit, whereas I always said that's what champions do. They grind out results that maybe you go, maybe they shouldn't have got that. But in the end, history is going to look back on this, and you're going to see Liverpool kind of walk this league title. This league has felt over since February, like realistically over since February. I want to say maybe January. I'd have to like go back and listen to my stuff to really figure that out. But yeah, definitely February. It's really felt pretty much over. Like, yeah, mathematically it only just finished, but really for a long time it really hasn't felt like anybody was ever catching them. And I can't remember the last time they weren't even top of the table. So yeah, you can't really argue with that. We'll kind of move into biggest winners of the weekend, and I feel like this is fitting because with Liverpool, yeah, I mean, do I really have to explain? They won the league. Mathematically, nobody can catch them now. They have won the league. Celebrations looked fantastic, looked unreal. And I will say it is good because I know their last league title came like literally in that 2020 year where COVID hit. So I know there were quote unquote unofficial celebrations. But of course, still, even with those celebrations, fans weren't allowed in the stadium. So it's actually been 35 years since fans have been able to celebrate a Liverpool league title win inside of Anfield. And yeah, you could really feel that 35-year wait because, oh boy, it looked fantastic. It really did. And yeah, I mean, I'm really not going to give another winner of the weekend because when the league's been wrapped, they're the winners, quite literally. But I guess if we want to get smart with it, I will say West Ham, Tottenham, Everton, Manchester United, and Wolves can all thank their lucky stars because mathematically all 3 teams have now been relegated: Ipswich, Leicester, and Southampton. So all of those teams are now safe, and I do say that a little bit tongue-in-cheek. But yeah, also shout out Wolves. They are now in 13th, by the way. Like, they're going to finish this season like not even looking like they were ever in a relegation scrap. And really, I think realistically, when we really analyze this season, we're probably going to look and go, yeah, there never really was much of a relegation threat past game week, whatever. And then, of course, it became official as the weeks went on. But there was a time where it did look like Wolves could have potentially have gone down. But yeah, these last bunch of weeks with Wolves constantly kind of just grinding out results and the other 3 teams just not, it really wasn't it wasn't close, no matter how we really want to phrase it. But yeah, I say that tongue-in-cheek with Wolves, United, Everton, Tottenham, and West Ham. None of them were really in threat of going down. I will say, though, for each of those teams, really like West Ham, Wolves, I know Wolves may actually finish above a lot of these teams, but just because Wolves started the season so slow and so cold, I will be interested to see kind of how they can improve on that so that maybe they're not nearer to the bottom. Maybe they can climb back up to like mid-table status, maybe even get into those Europa League spots that they were all those years ago. And then with like teams like West Ham, Tottenham, Everton, I'm kind of just interested to see what they're gonna do come this season, because they're not good right now, for lack of a better term. Well, Everton, I don't want to lump Everton into that. They had a bad start to the season, but since David Moyes has come in, he's looked quite good. But Tottenham and West Ham especially haven't really had a run of games where it's like, yeah, they look like they could do something here. No, not at all. Quite the opposite, actually. There's been runs of games where it's like, how are you not closer to relegation? And then you look at the relegated teams and you go, oh, that's fair. Like, Tottenham have lost the most amount of games outside of the bottom three. They've lost 19 this season. That's half the season in a 38-game season, and we have not played 38 games yet. That's astonishingly bad, especially for a Big Six team. That is horrendous. Yeah, not good at all. So I don't really know what you do. I don't know what the answer is. I don't think sacking Ange and bringing in a new guy, I don't really know what that's going to do outside of change the guy in the dugout. I think that they need an overhaul of the squad. I think that the backroom staff, and I mean like the higher up backroom staff, I don't mean like the kit man. No, like the head guys, the big guys in the office, I think need maybe some shaking up. That's my opinion. I'm not a Tottenham fan by any stretch of the imagination. But yeah, just very interested to see what kind of those teams can do, because we know they're capable of a bit more than what they've shown this year. But we'll kind of move into underwhelmers, and I guess I kind of already talked a little bit about underwhelmers as I went on that tangent. Tottenham for sure are an underwhelmer this weekend. And yeah, I mean, really for basically what I just said, I know I'm going to put in Aston Villa. I know that they played on Tuesday, but their match day is this match day. So I'm going to put in Aston Villa because it really has felt like their season has fallen apart a little bit. Now, they could still get a Europa qualification. I don't think they're getting a Champions League one. I'm thinking Europa Conference League or Europa League. It's a shame because I've really liked watching this Villa team and what Unai Emery has done, and a lot of these players have had very good seasons, but it just kind of feels like the wheels have fallen off just a tad at the end here. You know, PSG was no easy task in the Champions League, but you go out in the Champions League, and then a week later, it kind of feels like maybe Champions League qualification, like for this season going into next, has kind of ended with that loss to City, especially in like the, what was it, City scoring like the 93rd or something like that. Let me double check that. It was late, 94th minute. And then of course, so Champions League doesn't look really attainable like it could happen. And then they lost to Crystal Palace in the FA Cup semi-final to not make it to the final. You see what I mean? They have had a good season, I think, overall, but just kind of this last about 2 weeks, I think that is about, it does feel like it's fallen just a little bit short of expectation, in my opinion. But maybe they can still salvage something. They can still qualify for a European competition. I don't think them qualifying for like a Europa League is like, oh my God, that's embarrassing. You know, like I still think it is good, especially for the team that they've had, for the project that they're investing in. And yeah, you know, I think it's kind of growing pains at the moment. They have the right guy in the dugout, I think, and they have a lot of the right players. And they have a very talented team, like a very talented team. I just think they just lack that experience and that, I guess, killer instinct edge, if you will, for kind of the big moments at the end of the season. But if they kind of stay in and around where they're at, those killer instincts and moments will come, because you're going to have to rise to these occasions more often. And with that experience, I think that they'll be able to kind of build on this project, because I think it's a very exciting project for Villa at the moment. But let's kind of move on from underwhelmers and let's talk about best performance. I know this one kind of feels all over the place. I'm sorry. I'm just kind of like speaking on different teams at the moment. I feel like I've lost the segments in this episode a little bit. It was a strange weekend in the Premier League, I think. Strange match day because I know Villa played on Tuesday. But yeah, just kind of all over. I do apologize for that. But yeah, I just want to... There's a lot of teams I feel like there's a lot of different things to talk about, so I apologize. So let's talk about performances. I got 2 from one game, and it's actually the game we were just talking about, Aston Villa and Manchester City. So first I'm going to go with the man that was kind of on the wrong end of the results. Marcus Rashford. I think he had a tremendous game for Villa. I thought he was looking like that Rashford we'd always been promised, of the electric kind of winger / striker, kind of slotting into both those roles at different times of the game. And he looked good. City couldn't really cope with what he was doing. And yeah, it was just good to watch that he's kind of found his feet again. I'll be interested to see. I know I say this every time I think I bring up a Villa loanee. I'll be interested to see who they bring in on a permanent and how much it may cost them. I believe Rashford's a 40 million if they decide that is what they want to do. But for Manchester City, Nunes. I thought he also had a good game. Also showed up big in that last with the last touch of the game, last meaningful touch of the game in the 94th, where he scored the all-important winner. And yeah, I think he's had an up and down season, Nunes. I think he has shown bits of class, and he's also shown bits of, is he ready for this? On this day, he seemed ready for it. Kind of like Rashford, he kind of was proving to be a little bit difficult for Aston Villa to handle. He was also kind of playing that weird inverted right wing back role that Pep's kind of got him in, where he's kind of running the channels but also kind of then inverting into the midfield and then also having to defend. I don't know, it's Pep ball, man. But he looked good. He looked like he was up for it on the day, and like I said, showed up in the big moment, and is, despite having an up and down year, I think is finishing on a high. So that is absolutely massive for him. And then, not to keep tooting their horn, but Liverpool, just the entire team, they knew what they had to do. They went out there and left no room for error. They were class from beginning to end outside of that one goal that they let in. That was, in my opinion, one of their best performances of the season. I think the moment, the occasion, I think it meant a lot to them. And I think that they knew that they had to really play into the occasion and play up to that occasion. And that's what you want to see your champions-elect do. And, of course, the champions were then elected. So yeah, definitely Liverpool just as a whole. Moment of the weekend. Oh man, I bet you don't know what's coming next. Yeah, Liverpool winning the league. I know we're going on about it now. No, I'm kidding. We're not going on about it. But yeah, Liverpool winning the league. I mean, I feel like I've already talked about it enough for you to know why it's the moment of the weekend, so I won't beat a dead horse. But yeah, Liverpool winning the league, moment of the weekend. And I really don't really have another moment. I think that kind of eclipses most other moments that happened this weekend. So yeah, Liverpool. So moving into our final 3 segments, and I feel like these will be rather quick because relegation zone has been sorted. Yeah, as we already knew from the last few weeks, Southampton and Leicester both confirmed down, and joining them recently this weekend was Ipswich. I feel for the fans. I will say credit to the Ipswich fans who stayed well past the final whistle. The St. James Park looked pretty much cleared, and the Ipswich fans, their section was still full and singing to the players and serenading them. So that's what a real fan is. I think that's what proper fandom is all about. And you kind of, as I don't want to say you love to see it because like these people are obviously like their team just got relegated, but you do like to see the support. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, obviously terrible, like sucks that Ipswich are going down, of course, but you love to see the fans sticking with their team and, not sitting there and like booing them and off the pitch or nothing. Like, no, they were applauding them and just showing them their appreciation, because it has been one hell of a journey for Ipswich to get back to the Prem, and I would hope that they're back upon first time asking. But we kind of move into the European places now, and we kind of drew a line of the teams that I talk about. So it'll be Villa in 7th in those Conference League spots, Forest in the Europa League spot right now. But they do have a game in hand on Chelsea, and they are both level on points. Chelsea in 5th, City in 4th, Newcastle 3rd, Arsenal 2nd. Arsenal, we can say they're pretty well safe, I would say, of getting that Champions League qualification. I'm not sure if mathematically they are for sure, but screw mathematics. I think they are safe. Newcastle, City, Chelsea, Forest, and Villa are all vying for the same spot. Villa, of course, kind of feel like the outsiders looking in at the moment, given they loss against Manchester City. And them and Chelsea, as I've been harping on about, I feel have the hardest schedule in this run-in. And then City, Newcastle, Forest are all hitting really good form at the right time. All of these teams have gone through their slumps at different points in the season. So it's hard to really say, oh, these guys are the clear cut. They deserve to be there. They've had a tremendous season. Like, no, I feel like all of them have had some really, really good spells, and some of them have had some really, really bad spells. Like, my Chelsea, for example, started the season tremendously, looked very good until December. December hit, and no consistency. Been a struggle, and just haven't looked great. Same can be said for City. Just at different points in the season, looked decent at the start of the season, then fell off a friggin' cliff, and then bounced back post-January and have done really well. Same can be said for Newcastle, Forest, Villa. So I think it's still the most interesting. Well, it's really the only thing left in the Premier League to not be decided this season, as everything else of importance has been decided. So I've been saying that the race to watch is the race for Champions League recently, because relegation felt like it was wrapped and confirmed, and now it has been confirmed, and Liverpool has felt like they've been the champions for quite some time, and now that has, of course, also been confirmed. So really, there is only one thing left to watch, and that's who's going to get the Champions League spots. And if you're asking me, I still don't really have a clue. I will still say Chelsea. I will say Chelsea. I have to back them. Then I'd say probably City, Newcastle. Oh man, because I think Forest gets it too, though. Like, that's where like my brain comes in and my heart, doesn't. Because heart, I'm like, yeah, Chelsea, but my brain's going, I don't know. Forest is probably getting this. I don't know. Don't ask me. I don't know. I'm too biased to make a decision. But looking at the title race, there isn't one anymore. Liverpool, of course, won the league in quite some fashion. So yeah, in the end, not really close. There really wasn't a title race. And really, when you think about it, wasn't really a relegation race either. We sat here going, oh, these people they could do this. But they didn't, and it didn't happen. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at with all these different races and whatnot. But there is one final thing to do, and that's talk about the CPL one final time this episode, and it is to talk about my predictions. So let's get into it for this coming weekend. So first off, coming up this weekend on the Friday night is York and Cavalry. I'm backing York in this one. Both these teams have had their struggles in different ways, I think, to start this season. Cavalry just hasn't looked tremendous. I thought they looked good in the first game against Forge, but of course still lost. And then since then, they haven't really, I don't think, looked all that spectacular. Whereas York, I think, have struggled to find those finishing touches. I think if they find those finishing touches in this game, I'm going to say a York win. I'm going to go 2-1 York. And that is really basing on if York can finish their dinner. We're going to go to Atletico and Pacific. Oh, man, I always feel bad. I feel like I'm always choosing Pacific to lose, but I still think that they've had positives in this season so far. But they haven't shown me enough to go, I think that they got to win here. So I'm going to go 3-1 Ottawa. I'm sorry, Pacific. I have been impressed in spurts in your season. I think that you just need to figure out a way to really get it to click. Halifax and Forge is the next game on that Saturday. Oh man, I don't feel a Forge win on this one, guys. But I cannot choose Forge to lose. But I don't know. I think that both of these teams will walk away with a win each in their next two meetings. on this Saturday, and then the Wednesday they also play in Canadian Championship. And I think both of them are getting a win apiece. It's just a matter of who wins in which competition. I want Forge to go far in the Canadian Championship, so I'm saying a Forge loss in the CPL. So I'm going to go a 1-0 Halifax win, and that kind of kills me, as you know, I am a Forge fan. But I am saying it because I do think that both these teams get a win apiece, and I'm saying that Forge will beat Halifax in Hamilton in the Canadian Championship. Is that logic okay? I'm sorry, Forge. I do love you. But trust me, this is for the aesthetics, okay? Just back me on this, all right? And then the final match of the weekend, Valor Vancouver. I'm going a Vancouver win. I'm saying 2-0. 2-0 Vancouver. That's what I'm saying. So yeah, lock those in. If you want. And yeah, that's kind of how I'm feeling for these games coming up. And that will bring a close to this episode, a little bit shorter of one. But yeah, with the Premier League kind of basically being done with still a few games left, doesn't leave me a whole ton to talk about outside of the European race and congratulating Liverpool a million times. But yeah, so stick around for more content, of course. And watch the Canadian Championship. Games will be running this week and next week. Let me tell you when they're going to be running real quick. Actually, Atletico Ottawa play on Tuesday. They play Scrosapi. I'm so sorry. I have tried to pronounce this like 33 times. I cannot get it for the life of me. I'm very sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. In the high likelihood that I am in fact mispronouncing it. Then on the same Tuesday, Cavalry will face Edmonton Scottish United. On Wednesday, TFC face Montreal. And then the following Tuesday, May 6th, York face Laval. Pacific face Halifax. And then on the Wednesday after that, May 7th, Forge face Halifax. And Valor face TSS Rovers. So some good games, hopefully, to watch. A lot of CPL and MLS representation. And then some League One. Those wouldn't be Ontario, but League One, Quebec, and whatnot in there. So yeah, definitely go watch those if you can, if you live in an area, or stream it on One Soccer if you of course have that subscription. And if not, keep up with it on your phone or something. But yeah, with all this being said, I do appreciate you listening. So thank you so much for listening. And I will be back, of course, very soon. Until then, and until next time, cheers everyone.
And that was your Maple Footy Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Check my socials for any and all future updates. Remember to support Canadian football, be kind, and until next time, live, laugh, little.